October 19th, 3:47 a.m., the Red Sea. A U.S. Navy destroyer is patrolling one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Suddenly, radar screens light up. 15 attack drones launched from Houthi-controlled territory in Yemen are racing toward commercial ships. What happens next becomes one of the most intense naval air defense engagements in decades. In this video, we break down how the USS Kearney detected, tracked, and destroyed 15 hostile drones in a single night, and why it matters. If you want clear, factual breakdowns of modern naval combat, subscribe. Deployment into a war zone. At 6:15 a.m. on July 4th, the USS Kearney departed Naval Station Mayport, Florida, for what the crew believed would be a standard 6-month deployment to the U.S. Fifth Fleet area of operations. The mission brief was routine: maritime security operations in the Mediterranean and Middle East, port visits, training exercises, and ballistic missile defense patrols. For most of the crew, this was their first deployment. Fresh out of training, they expected to pull into ports, conduct drills, and return home. But nobody expected combat. "We were told we're doing a typical Fifth Fleet deployment," one sailor later recalled. "That was the plan until we entered the Red Sea." By early October, the geopolitical situation had shifted dramatically. Houthi rebels in Yemen, backed by Iran, began launching drone and missile attacks against commercial vessels in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. Their stated target was Israel and any ships they believed were connected to Israeli interests. But the attacks were indiscriminate, threatening one of the world's busiest maritime trade routes. The Red Sea handles approximately 12% of global trade, with massive container ships passing through the Suez Canal daily. A single disrupted vessel could cost millions. A coordinated attack could cripple international commerce. The U.S. Navy was not going to let that happen. On October 12th, the USS Kearney transited the Suez Canal and entered the Red Sea. The executive officer gathered the crew and delivered a blunt briefing. "This is the situation. This is what we could potentially be facing." The crew began preparing immediately. Combat drills intensified. Weapon systems were tested and retested. Every radar operator, fire controlman, and gunner's mate fell back on their training, knowing that at any moment, the call could come. On October 15th, just 3 days after entering the Red Sea, that call came. Radar operators detected 2 anti-ship ballistic missiles launched from Houthi-controlled territory. The Carney engaged, successfully intercepting both missiles before they could reach their targets. It was the ship's first taste of combat. But it wouldn't be the last. Approaching a night of escalating threats. October 19th, 2:13 a.m. The USS Kearney was positioned approximately 60 nautical miles north of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the narrow choke point connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. On the bridge, the watch team monitored radar displays, tracking dozens of commercial vessels moving through the area. In the Combat Information Center, warfare coordinators maintained 24/7 vigilance. Then, at 3:47 a.m., the AN/SPY-1D radar detected a new contact. Bearing 032, range 47 miles, altitude 1,200 feet, speed 110 knots. The profile matched a one-way attack drone, an Iranian-designed Samad-3 UAV commonly used by Houthi forces. Within 15 seconds, 2 more contacts appeared, then 4 more, then 6. The radar screens lit up with inbound threats, all converging on a cluster of commercial vessels 22 miles to the northwest. The Kearney's Aegis combat system automatically classified the contacts as hostile and fed targeting data to the ship's weapon systems. In the Combat Information Center, the Air Warfare Coordinator's voice cut through the tension. "Multiple inbound UAVs. Engage with SM-2 and 5-inch. The commanding officer, Commander Brendan McLean, arrived in combat within 60 seconds. The executive officer took position on the bridge, coordinating ship maneuvers to maximize firing arcs while keeping the Kearney safe. Every warfare station was manned. Every sailor knew their role, and the adrenaline was pumping. At 3:52 a.m., the first engagement began. the Carney fired an SM-2 Standard missile from its vertical launch system. The missile streaked into the sky, its radar seeker locking onto the lead drone. 5 seconds later, the drone disintegrated in a fireball 11 miles out. The crew had no time to celebrate. 2 more drones were closing fast, now just 8 miles from a Liberian-flagged container ship. The Carney's 5-inch Mk-45 deck gun rotated, its computerized fire control system calculating lead angles, wind speed, and trajectory. At 4:01 a.m., the gun opened fire. The first round missed. The second round struck the drone's fuselage, shearing off a wing. The third round detonated directly on target, obliterating the threat. But the attack was far from over. 9 hours of continuous combat. At 4:07 a.m., radar detected a second wave. 5 more drones, approaching from a different vector, altitude varying between 800 and 1,500 feet. These were smaller, faster, and harder to track. The Carney fired 2 more SM-2 missiles in rapid succession, both hits. 2 drones down. But 3 more were still inbound, now splitting formation to complicate targeting. The ship's close-in weapon system, the Phalanx CIWS, a rapid-fire 20mm Gatling gun designed as the last line of defense, powered up. At 4:11 a.m., 1 drone broke through the outer engagement zone, closing to within 2 miles. The Phalanx locked on. The gun spun up to 4,500 rounds per minute. A wall of tungsten rounds erupted from the barrel. The drone shattered into fragments, crashing into the sea 1,200 meters from the Carney. The crew in combat erupted in chaos, voices calling out new contacts, weapon status, engagement priorities. It was a fight-or-flight moment, one sailor recalled. Everyone was in fight mode. But the Houthis weren't done. At 6:23 a.m., a third wave launched. 4 drones, again targeting commercial vessels. The Carney engaged immediately, destroying 3 with SM-2 missiles. The 4th drone flew erratically, dropping altitude to just 200 feet above the water, attempting to evade radar. The 5-inch gun fired 7 rounds before scoring a direct hit, the drone exploding in a spray of shrapnel and burning fuel. At 8:45 a.m., just as the crew thought the attack was over, radar detected 2 more inbound contacts. These were anti-ship cruise missiles, faster and more dangerous. The Carney fired 2 SM-2 missiles. Both intercepted their targets at ranges exceeding 20 miles. The crew had been at battle stations for over 5 hours. Exhaustion was setting in, but nobody could afford to let their guard down. At 11:17 a.m., the final wave arrived. 3 drones flying in tight formation, attempting to saturate the Carney's defenses. The ship fired 1 SM-2 missile, destroying the lead drone. The 5-inch gun engaged the second, scoring a hit after 4 rounds. The third drone continued inbound, now just 4 miles out. The Phalanx CIWS engaged, firing a short burst. The drone veered off course, trailing smoke, and crashed into the sea 800 meters from the ship. At 11:34 a.m., the commanding officer's voice came over the ship's intercom. All stations, this is the CO. Threat neutralized. Secure from general quarters. The battle was over. In 9 hours, the USS Kearney had engaged and destroyed 15 drones and intercepted multiple cruise missiles. Not a single American was injured. Not a single commercial vessel was hit. The crew had performed flawlessly. The aftermath. At 2:47 p.m., the Carney resumed patrol operations, though the crew remained on heightened alert. In the Combat Information Center, analysts reviewed the engagement data, cataloging every missile fired, every gun round expended, every tactical decision made. The numbers were staggering. The Carney had fired more missiles in a single day than most destroyers fired in an entire deployment. Weapon systems that had been tested in training were now combat-proven. And the crew, many of whom had been college students just a year ago, were now combat veterans. This was one of the first combat deployments and engagements since World War II, one officer reflected. I feel very blessed to have been on a ship that actually got to experience that. The USS Kearney returned to Naval Station Mayport months later, after a deployment unlike any in recent memory. The crew disembarked to cheers, families, and the knowledge that they had made history. In 9 hours on October 19th, they had engaged and destroyed 15 hostile drones, protecting global commerce and proving that the U.S. Navy remains the world's most capable maritime force. If you think this battle deserves to be known, share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like and subscribe for more in-depth naval operations analysis. See you in the next mission.